Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the astrological chart of Miley Cyrus. I think a lot of people can see the connection between Miley and Britney. I just did the Britney analysis last week, and both of these artists are Sagittarians, but Miley is on the cusp with Scorpio. When I say a connection between the two, I'm talking about how their career progressed. Both of them were child stars. They were on TV shows, and then they made the progression into the pop music industry. And of course, Miley is younger than Britney. Miley was born in 1992, and Britney was born in 1981. So while that's not really a generational difference, it was very clear that Britney paved the way, and that it seems to me that Miley looked up to Britney and wanted and aspired to be like Britney. I might have even heard her say how much she loved Britney. And of course, Britney is mentioned in that song that might have been her first hit, Party in the USA. By the way, I am far from an expert on Miley, but I have followed her career since she became more of an adult type of performer. And I've seen some of those videos multiple times. And I have to say that, like Doja Cat, that I am intrigued by her videos. I think that both of those artists have very good visuals, and that the songs are kind of, they're different. They're not as typical. Some of these pop songs that I hear, like if I'm in a cafe or something, they seem like they're just like a computer program, and they sound all the same. They have the same type of instrumentation. And an artist like Miley, you may not agree with some of the things that she's done, or even what her videos, and same with Doja Cat, but at least they have some kind of music that is distinctive to some degree. And so I have a little bit, I have respect for that. Even if I'm not sitting there listening to it all the time, I still have respect for it. And so one of the things, when I think of Miley and I think of how she was trying to transition from being, I don't know if that was a Disney show that she was on, but that kind of children's or preteen girls show, into that more of a sexualized image. And I don't even know if she was 18 at that time, but she was like, maybe she was 17, was when she made that song. I think it was called I Won't Be Tamed or Untamed or something like that. And she was wearing kind of S&M outfits, like, leather, thigh-high boots and all that kind of like kinky sex stuff. And that sounds like I'm like a church lady or something. Kinky sex stuff. And all of that's kind of fetish gear, or whatever you want to call it. And then she was in a cage, and she was trying to be so wild and all that stuff. And it was obvious that, a lot of people said, oh, she's just trying to be like Britney. But as I mentioned in Britney's video, Britney always gave off this kind of a classy vibe. Even when she was being sexual, she always seemed like she was above it all. And Britney's rising sign is Libra, and Miley's rising sign is Taurus, and both of these signs are ruled by Venus. The difference is that Taurus is an earth sign, and earth is on the ground. So that means that it's very, where air kind of floats up. It's not, it's ethereal. It doesn't have any substance. So it's not, so in other words, there's a denser quality to Taurus. And because of that, you will see that the type of beauty that a Taurus person or Taurus rising person tends to go for tends to like hit people over the head. I have Taurus rising. Not now, I'm not doing this now, but back in the day, when I was in that age range, like in my 20s and stuff, I was wearing the tight shirts, was wearing the mini skirts, anything that was very, revealing and very flaunting of the body. That's obvious. A woman can be sexy and wear a business suit. You don't have to be half naked to be sexy. And I'm saying this looking back and reflecting on how I was, and I don't regret it at all because that was just what I wanted to do. But it just I wouldn't have wanted to wear like a blazer or something like that. That wasn't me. But for anybody listening, you don't have to do that to be attractive or to be sexy. It's to just be, blatantly, displaying your body. But that's kind of what Miley did to get ahead. I mean, well, I don't know. That's not really right for me to say that. But she certainly was trying to make that transition into adulthood, and that was the way that she chose to do it. And of course, there were also outrageous behaviors that went along with it, which came a little bit later, though. Sometimes I've watched that video for Party in the USA, and she really, and I see the comments, and people say, "Oh, I want that Miley back." A lot of people said that after she did Wrecking Ball, that was, what really made people talk, because of course she was naked and stuff, and people said, "I want the old Miley back," because that was such a crazy video. I mean, even now, it's just like outrageous and crazy. And remember that she was this child star. So do you think that her her fans that were on the younger end wouldn't look at that video? And, you could say, well, it's just a body. It's a naked body. It's not like it's some kind of a bad thing. But it's just something that was promoting sex in a very blatant way. So Miley is a sun in Sagittarius at 1 degree. I mentioned before that a lot of these young stars are Sagittarians. Miley, Britney, Christina. I'm going to do a video on Christina Aguilera. Taylor Swift. I don't know if I'll do one on her just because I don't really know her that well. And who else? Nelly Furtado, but I don't know if she's really that active these days. Maybe she is. Sorry if I'm, unintentionally dissing her career. There's somebody else. That's not it. But anyway, that's enough. I mean, because there's some of the biggest stars. And if any of you listening have your sun at 1 degree or 0 degrees of a particular sign, then you are definitely on the cusp. And you should look at the sign behind you, or if you're 29 degrees of a sign, or you know what I mean, even 28 degrees, look at the sign ahead of you in that case. But if you're 0 or 1 degree, look at the sign behind you, because you're on the cusp. And that means that the other sign is going to have some influence. So for Miley, that would be Scorpio, and she has the moon in Scorpio. So that really kind of seals the deal. Another thing about Miley is her Mercury is in Scorpio, and it's in conjunction with the moon. So Miley is a very emotional person. You can tell that by when she talks. You can tell that she has a very emotional way of expressing herself. And but there's with Scorpio, it's self-contained. It's not like maudlin, like a Cancer, where it's all over the top, sentimentality, or a Pisces, where it's just like, I wouldn't say like a weakness, but that kind of like a very tender, vulnerable spirit. There's a toughness with Scorpio, almost like a hardness, but still emotional at the same time, if that makes any sense. And that's what Miley has. And there's also this sense of being kind of ahead of their time, or not ahead of their time, wiser than their years. And I could tell from years back that Miley was, she seemed older than what she was. Maybe not when she was like, in the kiddie shows, but when she was older, when she was like 20, late teens, 20, early 20s, she seemed like much older than other people her age. And I think that's the Scorpio. Um, there can be different reasons for that. If somebody goes through trauma, a lot of times that will make them much, world weary type of vibe. But I'm not saying that that's her experience. I'm just saying that she was very self possessed for somebody that young. Now she's, as I record this, she's going to be 30 on her birthday. So that's really wild. She's, I guess she's been on my radar for, 10 years at least, or more. So Miley has the sun, the moon, and the moon in conjunction with Mercury. But with the sun in conjunction with Mercury, it can make somebody who is very intellectual. And, Sag is already very intellectual as it is. There's nothing to suggest with these inner planets or the rising sign, that same influence. So what I would say about that is, I did read somewhere, I think I saw an interview with her that she said that she likes to read. So she has Mars in the third house, which is the house of the mind. That can indicate somebody who's thirsty for knowledge and very motivated to learn. Okay, so that makes sense to me because of that. But also, it's important to note that somebody who has this water in their inner planets, inner points, and then in the water house, there's 3 water houses. The 4th, which Cancer rules, the 8th Scorpio rules, and the 12th the Pisces rules. She has Chiron in the 4th, and she has Venus and Uranus in the 8th house. And Uranus, especially in the 8th, I would associate with somebody who may enjoy studying astrology. Astrology is connected to the 8th, the tarot, astrology, metaphysical, esoteric topics, subject matter. But the other thing that, having those inner planets in water for sure, and even the sun is on the cusp with the water sign, that's going to make somebody naturally very psychic. And, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that they may have a life you might not even realize the kind of things that they are experiencing, that they are capable of, because they're putting that other face to the public. She has Neptune in the 9th house, and that's another example of this. As somebody who has a very devotional nature, she may even have some kind of a channel, be an open channel to the divine spirits, or what I would call like the archangels or Mother Mary, whatever the person's religious beliefs are, spiritual beliefs. And these kinds of things are not necessarily broadcast. I mean, people don't necessarily talk about these things, not because they're ashamed per se, but they might feel that other people wouldn't understand where they're coming from. So it's important to note that people who have evidence of psychic gifts, that may be something that they kind of keep to themselves. And you may see this side to them that's very earthy and think that they don't even have that, and you might be totally wrong about that. And that sounds like, and I think that what I would draw a parallel to is also a person's emotional vulnerability. Sometimes people put on this act of being so tough and everything, but they really are very sensitive souls. And they don't share that with the world sometimes. And maybe that's how Miley is. Because she has that raspy voice, and she seems very kind of, tough, but, she's obviously got like a sensitive side. Now, what I don't know if I'd say what concerns me, but what I'm curious about is Chiron in the fourth house of home and family, because Chiron is the wounded healer. It can indicate that someone felt that they were not nurtured properly. It's possible, since her father was a star, that she didn't have the kind of home life that was very kind of grounding. I don't know, because I thought that she did. I thought she, lived in Nashville, and that the fourth house can be the mother. Did she have a relationship with her mother? I think her mother is a Pisces. Sometimes Pisces parents might be too lenient or lax, and they don't have enough boundaries with their children, and maybe that's what the problem was, that she was allowed to do too much too soon, and then she didn't feel that she was protected or loved. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't blame her mother, but I'm just kind of curious what that's all about. It could be something as simple as having to be like, if her father was in show business, because I can't remember when her father had that hit. Seems like it was right around that time of the early 90s. That was kind of I can't remember what his song was, but it was kind of like wasn't it kind of a novelty song or something? Because they kind of wrote him off as being a one-hit wonder, but I don't think he was. Yeah, I just looked it up, Achy Breaky Heart. So, 1992 was the year that his album became a smash hit. And that was the year that Miley was born. So that was there was probably a lot going on at that time in his life. And she probably did not have a very, I don't know if, how she was raised in the very early years, but that might have been hard for her to have to deal with that kind of intrusion on their lives, with this big, show business thing. So anyway, I was trying to find what I've been interested in finding about is this overemphasis on sexualization by these young artists. Now, somebody wrote to me something very insightful, and they said, well, that's the music industry is doing that to them. And so it's really not about them, it's more about the music industry. And I would say yes, but I also think that in Miley's case in particular, that she has championed, what we would call alternative, I don't want to say alternative lifestyles, but she said that she was a pansexual. I still don't know what that is, but I heard that she was bisexual. So in her eighth house, she has a conjunction between Venus and Uranus, and it's in the eighth, which is funny, because the eighth house can be sex, but it's sex, what we'd call sex magic or spiritual sex. It's not kind of like that recreational sex, which is more of the fifth house. And by the way, she has Jupiter in the fifth house. So that can be somebody who has a lot of affairs, and who has a lot of that recreational sex, who might be promiscuous, but I'm not saying that in a bad way, who just enjoys having, takes pleasure in pleasure. Fifth house is a house of pleasure. Eighth house is more serious, like kind of that soul. It's intimacy. So it's not just about physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy. With Uranus in conjunction with Venus, there can be this feeling that you can be intimate with more than one person. So she may be somebody who experiments with a poly type of polyamorous situation, meaning, a lot of people think that polyamory is just having sex with a bunch of people, but that would be, you wouldn't even have to have that construct of polyamory. You just sleep around. This is about having relationships with people. And that's where people, get lost on the plot. Like, why would somebody do that? Well, that's what some people want. They don't want to just limit their love to one person. So she may really believe in this concept of love being limitless, but a deep love, not just kind of the shallow thing. Because, if people get confused, they can sleep around and they can feel very emotionally unfulfilled. And that can really start to wear on a person after a while, because they start to feel very lonely and very used. But if they have this very strong emotional connection with that person, a deep, soul connection, then they feel like the sex, they may have an open relationship, but they still have this sense of relationship being open in all ways. Like the heart is very open. So that may be. Now, the interesting thing about this is with her Scorpio and Taurus energy, that can be very, and even Cancer, that can really be something that a person has to work through, because those signs will tend to be much more jealous and possessive. And so to me, it is an evolved state of being. I really do believe that type of mentality is a higher state of being in terms of relationships. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to admit to you that I'm not going to do it. But if some people are very conscious and they're not doing it for the wrong reasons, I think that they are more evolved than other people when it comes to love. So that's a very interesting thing that's going on. Also, Uranus by itself can be very sexually experimental. The person can be kind of kinky, have weird fetishes and stuff like that. And, because Uranus is an oddball kind of an energy. But it can be like with the intuitive too, where the person is fascinated by, galactic type of information, that they are from a certain star system, their star seed, they're just fascinated by the mysteries of the universe as it pertains to things like that, kind of mixing it like science fiction-y kind of stuff. So that can be very interesting. In her sixth house of work, she has Pluto here. Pluto in this is also the house of health, especially with women. And obviously at one point they're young women. Sometimes this can be an eating disorder, because Pluto can be about control. And the sixth house can be diet, although there's no evidence that this has been the case for Miley. Another thing that can happen is orthorexia, where the person is afraid of contaminating their bodies with impure foods, or even like water that isn't filtered. They might, rather be dehydrated than drink tap water, or something like that. Now, again, there's no evidence that she's like that, but she may, if she hasn't already, she may get to the point, at some point, she may evolve, you could say, where she's really about eating a pure diet, not necessarily excessively so. The reason that it becomes excessive is if the person's imbalanced in some way. So when somebody doesn't feel like they have power in their life, control, that's when the eating disorders happen. They're looking for some distraction, but they're also looking for control over an area of life. I think of eating disorders as OCD, as a form of obsessive compulsive disorder. Same with addictions. That's how I personally see it. Uh, Now I'll sit back and wait for somebody who's in the mental health field to tell me I don't have the right to diagnose anybody, which I'm not doing. So anyway, um, let's see. So then she also has the moon in the sixth house, and the sixth house can be your service to others. Um, she has conjunctions between the sun, moon, and Mercury to Pluto, and a trine between Mars to Pluto. Wow, that is somebody who is very, very, it's very scorpionic, but it's very controlled. The person can be very, like, able to direct their energy the way that they want it. They're not, they're very strong in their character, in their being, as far as I'm concerned. But the in the sixth house to have Pluto here, the healer, it could be the healer. So maybe at some point she will be a healer of some sort. I mean, she may do that undercover. Maybe she's doing Reiki on people. Who knows? We don't even know behind the scenes. But also, another thing about this is that it can, the moon can indicate, creative work, creative service to others. Pluto here can indicate somebody that really wants to, they're very into their power as it relates to work. So sometimes if somebody has Pluto in the sixth house and they're in an office, they can be the one who is coming early and staying late because they're trying to get ahead. And that can make other coworkers kind of like nervous. Like they don't like this person because they feel like they're trying to show them up, and they just feel like that person's trying to take over or something. And they might be trying to take over, come to think of it. And she's got Mercury in the sixth house. Yeah, this could be somebody, I don't know what her diet is like, but she might become very into like a raw foods, vegan type of, maybe, I don't know if she is a vegan. I never heard that she was. But that might be something in the future that she gets into, because I always think of the sixth house as vegetarianism. This is Virgo's domain, natural health, and things like that. I also think that with Mercury in the sixth, her service to others involves communication, which singing is. It's a form of communication. In her seventh house, she has the sun and the North Node. Her North Node is in Sagittarius. This is the rebel, the this could be the spiritual teacher, but somebody who has to tell the truth. And she has that vibe about her that she's not trying to sugarcoat things. I think, Brittany was always trying to be socially acceptable and things like that. A lot of times, I mean, she was kind of rebellious too. All Sagittarian sun signs are going to be rebellious. That's just how it works. But let me see her. Yeah, so Miley is someone who, this is the house of public relations, the seventh house, for her to have Sagittarius here. It's like being true to yourself, like being authentic. But she has it in this house of relationships. So, she has a sun here. So she is conscious of other people. And she did have a relationship with somebody who I think she was really, really into. I don't know like she was married, and I don't know why it broke up. I think he is a Capricorn, her ex-husband, and I did wonder if that would work ultimately. But, she does have Venus in Capricorn and Mars in, well, Cancer is the opposite sign of Capricorn, but I'll just say Venus in Capricorn. So there's a possibility that there was something about the way he was that really appealed to her, because when you're a Sagittarian and you have Venus and Mars in these feminine signs, both in feminine signs like this, you may find yourself attracted to somebody who is a water or an earth sign. And while there might be some compatible aspects between your Venus or Mars and their Sun or whatever, it might not be enough to bridge the gap. It depends on the individual, but in some cases there might be an attraction. Remember that we can be attracted to somebody because we like a certain element of their nature, and then overall we just don't feel that we're on the same page with that person. And it doesn't make that person bad. We may have a good relationship post breakup, you know? So just kind of like putting that out there, because I think that she really is looking for that soulmate. And the question is she trying to like replicate that by having this free love, attitude? Because with Jupiter in the fifth house, it can indicate somebody who has a lot of flings. And especially for women, and I think even younger women who think that they're so above it all and that they can be like a man and they can just be like sleeping with different people and having friends with benefits. I think sometimes even younger women will find out the hard way that they are wired, maybe because they're, meant to have children, that they really want to have that kind of stable relationship, that just having a part-time relationship isn't enough for them. And they get their heart broken because they thought they could be in that masculine energy all the time. But that to me is toxic masculinity. It's not the divine masculine, which is about being protective, being strong. And the feminine energy is about being very receptive and being very able to kind of let your guard down and be soft. And the women in her generation, which I just did a video on Neptune and Capricorn generation, they have this tendency, she's on the tail end of that, to be kind of like they can just do whatever, whenever. And when it comes to their, how they handle relationships, but they're human like anyone else, and they may find that they're really, and this can also apply to career with Neptune and Capricorn, that, oh wow, I'm going to make money and it's going to be so great. And then they find out that money it's kind of an illusion in a way, because it has like importance, but it's only limited importance. And they were kind of chasing after this fantasy sometimes. And then what happened in the meantime? They may have neglected their personal lives. And in that case, then they are looking for a mate, somebody that they can, possibly raise a family with, but somebody that they can really build a strong bond with. So it'll be interesting to see how she navigates her 30s. She's 29 at the moment. Let's see, is she having her first Saturn return? Yes, she is. Saturn, her natal Saturn is at 13 degrees of Aquarius. So she's having her first Saturn return, and that tends to make a 20-something, 30-something person very sober, and taking stock of their lives. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.